it just feels like there isn't a single result that would surprise me. It could go 9-0 either way, and I'd be like, okay, I could see it.
Do you think if the Oilers do win, that they do it here, that the Avs will just clinch it here?
Yeah.
Even with what's his face come back, Evander Kane.
Yeah. I mean, Kane scored the first goal of the series and hasn't done anything since. So it's been
interesting. Okay. By the way, I don't know if you're ready to go in the chat, but yeah, I was just gonna ask you usual stuff. Just like I'm gonna bring up the fact the last time we spoke that we were kind of, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but the Avs weren't looking great at the end of the regular season, and since then they've just obviously gone on a tear, which I don't have to tell you about. But ask you about the goalie situation, obviously.
I told you I wasn't worried.
Yeah, you were not worried, and you, by the way, were right on because you picked the Preds. That was your team to play, and that turned out to be spot on.
Yeah.
I thought about that. I actually meant to reach out to you about it. But if you're cool with it, I'm ready to get going.
Yeah, whenever. Ready to rock.
Cool. I'll just count us in and get us going. And... all right. 3, 2, and 1. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here on 90s Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi, and today we're going to get into a bit of Colorado Avalanche talk as the Avs head into Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals with just one game before, well, they only need to win one more game to get to the first Stanley Cup Finals in 20-plus years. So the Colorado Avalanche on the brink of getting to the finals. They're up 3-0 against the Edmonton Oilers, coming off of a 4-2 win on Saturday night, but there's been a lot of drama surrounding the series with Evander Kane from the Edmonton Oilers suspended for a game after a hit against the Avalanche's Nazem Kadri. That has led to Kadri being out likely for the rest of the series, if not for the rest of the postseason. So to get a bit more insight on this, we're now joined by AJ Haefele from DNVR. And AJ, the last time we spoke with you was on the eve of the postseason, and the Avalanche were kind of slumping at the end of the regular season. You correctly at the time told us not to be too worried about it. You also picked the Nashville Predators as the best team to face the Avalanche. That obviously turned out to be right. So the Avalanche have won 11 of 13 playoff games. How would you assess how you're feeling at this point? I would imagine pretty well, considering the Avs are up 3-0 in the series against the Oilers.
Yeah, I think anytime you're on the verge of making the Stanley Cup final, if you don't feel good about that team, you're probably being a little too harsh there. Consider that there are, 27 some odd teams that would kill to be in your position. So I think I certainly think it's fair to say feel pretty good about the team. I'm a little surprised how it's gone. I mean, 11-2 is not how I saw this going. I mean, you know how the postseason is. You're talking about the best teams playing their best hockey and giving you their best shot every night, and it's to see the Avalanche handle it the way that they have. And honestly, when you look at the two losses, they got beat in one game, and then the other one they just gave away. That loss to the Blues where they blew the big lead and ruined Nathan McKinnon's playoff coronation with the heartbreaker. So honestly, like they've been so good, and they've handled the adversity. The war of attrition is starting to really hit them, and that's my biggest concern. Sam Girard has a broken sternum. Nazem Kadri sounds like a broken thumb. There's rumor out there that Andrei Burakovsky has a broken bone in his foot after blocking the shot. So you're talking guys are hurting, and obviously Darcy Kemper with the vision issues stemming from the stick in the mask freak accident that happened in round one against Nashville. It's right now they're kind of going through that ringer. Their biggest adversity is their health and trying to manage that and a fluid lineup, and still trying to find a way to stop the two-headed beast that is Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl.
And with that in mind, I mean, the Avalanche did lose Nazem Kadri after 66 seconds of game one. They were down, game three, I should say, last time out against the Oilers. They were down 1-0 at the time after Connor McDavid scored a goal. And then they rebounded, to your point about the adversity. They rebounded. They obviously end up winning 4-2. The Avalanche have so far stepped up to every challenge, it seems like. How confident are you that they'll be able to do it for not only the rest of this series, but perhaps into the Stanley Cup Finals as well?
I certainly feel confident about the rest of this series, just because I continue to feel like their defense matches up well with what the Oilers have to offer. McDavid is awesome, but Leon Draisaitl's clearly hurt, and this compromised version of him, especially if their coaching staff continues to split up Draisaitl and McDavid, I feel very confident that the remainder of this series won't be very long. The Avs still have to go and do it though, and hockey is built on classic sayings, the old axioms, the classic truths, and one of them is that the fourth win in a series is the hardest to get, because that team has nothing to lose anymore. They back to the wall. We saw what it did to the Oilers in round one against LA, where it turbocharged Connor McDavid. It was a bolt of lightning went through that guy for a couple of days while they were facing elimination. And when you bring out the best in the very best player in the world, it's pretty impressive to watch. So the Avs still have a lot of work to do. They can't look at it as a 3-0 series lead. They just have to look at it as, if they win one day, win one shift, win one period, build into those things, they win one game, they're in the Stanley Cup final. So my confidence about them in the next round, we'll see. I want to see how healthy they are. I want to see who their opponent is. But ultimately, they still have to get there. And so I think that's still, I'm adopting their mentality, and one day at a time, one game at a time. And we'll worry about what's next when it's time.
And also another cheesy sports adage, next man up. And that's obviously the case in between the pipes at goal. Powell Francouz has played pretty awesome in 2 games, only given up 2 goals in place of Darcy Kemper, the Avs regular starter, of course. Tell me a bit more about Francouz, and can he keep this up?
Yeah, so Francouz has always been an interesting guy because he's a little on the small side. He has a tendency to give up lots of rebounds, and through 2 games, I haven't seen that. You've seen him tracking the puck extremely well. You haven't seen pucks just careening off of him and going in random directions. That was more of a thing that they were battling with Darcy Kemper. And I think when you talk about the difference that it's making on their penalty kill right now, it's enormous, because those are second opportunities. Those are puck battles in front of the net. And it's a lot easier to lose a puck battle when they've got an extra guy on the ice. And so I think his puck tracking has been so sound that on the PK, it's really made a noticeable difference. But their structure in front of him, they've been excellent. And right now it's a good relationship. And Frankie isn't historically a guy that you want facing 40 shots. He's going to be a guy that's a lot more comfortable with 25. So I think that he is, you feel comfortable with him. They gave him an extension for a reason. He's only ever been a very good goaltender in North America. You don't really think of him as like the guy that's going to lead them to the cup. But right now, he's not being asked to do that. They have asked him to come in and just not lose them a game. Come in and say, hey, if they beat you with something great, they beat you with something great. Just don't give them anything free. And we saw, the shutout was great, but we saw in game 3, both of those goals were pretty soft. And the second goal in particular, the one that McLeod scored to tie it up in the third period, is unacceptable for an NHL goaltender. But at the end of the day, he only gave up 2. And if I could take it right now going into game 4 that the Oilers would only score 2, I would. I would absolutely take that, and I would take Colorado's chances to win that game. If he can keep it to 2, I think Colorado can get it done and get into the next round.
So you have the choice between if Kemper's back healthy, which sounds like he's getting close. You may have a bit more insight on that, AJ, but it sounds, based on what you're saying, that you would still prefer Kemper, despite the fact that Francouz has played 2 solid games. Kemper's been pretty meh throughout the postseason.
Yeah, it's tough with Kemper because he never really was asked to do much the first 2 games of Nashville. He gets hurt the first period of game 3, misses games 3 and 4, comes back for St. Louis, never really looks like the Darcy Kemper we saw for 70% of the season. He wasn't bad per se outside of the meltdown in game 5 where they were all bad. But you also never felt confident with him back there. And then obviously if he's having blurred vision and he can't see the puck, that first game against Edmonton, that's a huge problem. So I think that you're comfortable riding with Frankie right now. And if he has a tough game, and if Kemper is truly like he's fine and he feels comfortable and he can see and he can whatever, then if Francouz has a tough game, then you can go back to Kemper. But right now, I don't see how you can just take it away from Pavel Francouz. He's just been too effective. He has to open up that door for Darcy Kemper to walk through, I think.
All right. One thing we haven't talked about yet was the hit that took place with Evander Kane hitting Nazem Kadri, as mentioned, 66 seconds into game number 3, knocked Kadri out potentially for the rest of the postseason, certainly for the rest of the series, with that potential broken thumb that has not been confirmed. Traditional hockey style, the coaches, everybody's being very, very tight-lipped about what's going on there. But there's no doubt it was a dirty hit, and a lot of upset Avalanche players, coaches after the game. Kane was suspended for 1 game for tonight's game as a result of that hit. What are your takeaways from that hit, and do you think that comes into play on the ice tonight in game 4?
Neither guy being involved in the game, I would say it probably doesn't come into. I don't think that there's anything for them to settle there, but that'll be a next year, wherever Nazem Kadri is, wherever Evander Kane is. I imagine they have a go of it. But for this game, the big thing is that that's their leading goal scorer. That's, last I checked, he's the guy leading the NHL in goals in the postseason. He's a huge part of their success. That's a gigantic loss for them, the same way that Kadri is a gigantic loss for Colorado. But without Kane, and he should be suspended. I think it should have been longer than 1 game. It was predatory. It's dirty. Kadri doesn't make any. He doesn't put himself in a vulnerable position. He does not. He doesn't have any last second change of direction. Kane sees the numbers the entire way and just smokes him. That's all there is to it. Kane is that kind of guy. He's always been that kind of guy. He's always been that selfish him first kind of guy. Never been a team first dude. And you see it 60 seconds into a game. They have a 1-0 lead after the first shift of the game. And he puts his team in that kind of position. That's all you need to know about that guy, especially because he spent the end of both games 1 and 2 chasing Avs players around. He's going head hunting on Cale Makar. Like the guy wanted to hurt somebody, and it took him a little bit longer than he probably wanted to, and he got his. And that's what he wanted. That's all Evander Kane ever wants, is to get his. And so I think the 1-game suspension, they let him off the hook there. He might, if he misses tonight, and if they win without him, he gets to come back and continues to play while Nazem Kadri is still watching the series. And I think that sucks. So I'm disappointed it was only 1 game, but I'm not surprised. Evander Kane has shown us time and time and time again in his NHL career who he is. And I think at this point we can just go ahead and believe him. That's who he is.
All right. Well, obviously that's kind of maybe one of the few dark spots for the Avalanche right now is obviously losing Kadri, who's been so electrifying for this team all postseason long. You kind of mentioned it earlier on, but give me your main reason for concern, and that probably lends more into the Stanley Cup Finals. What's your biggest concern? I know I don't know how much you believe in jinxes, or anybody out there believes in jinxes.
I don't.
Okay, you don't believe in jinxes. Let's say the Avs get it done. They're up 3-0. Only happened, I think, 4 times in 200 tries that teams come back from 3-0 down. What's your biggest concern heading into the Stanley Cup Finals with this team?
The two things that really stick out to me, can Pavel Francouz keep it up? Because look, you're not asking Pavel Francouz to be amazing for a month. You're asking him to be amazing for 3 weeks. Can he keep it up? And if he can't, is Darcy Kemper healthy enough to be Darcy Kemper? Because if Darcy Kemper needs to be reinserted back into the lineup, he needs to be the guy that he was during the regular season, and not the guy. He was just fine. Like, he was okay during the playoffs. So I would say that's a thing that's on my mind. And the other thing is Nazem Kadri as the second line center was the linchpin to their whole forward operation. Nathan MacKinnon has been excellent in this postseason, but as much as we talk about how good MacKinnon is offensively, it's what he's been able to accomplish defensively, going head to head. It's funny because all the other times people will talk about how is the team going to shut Nathan MacKinnon down, and in this postseason, it's been a little bit of the reverse Uno card. He has defensively taken away the opposing team's top centers in each series in a very meaningful way. While Connor McDavid had a 3-point night in game 1, when you score 14 goals between the two teams, just the 3 points, bum. And, then he has just the 1 goal. You're talking about 4 points in 3 games for Connor McDavid. And the expected goals and all the underlying numbers show that Nathan MacKinnon has been awesome in that matchup. Devon Toews and Cale Makar have been awesome in that matchup. They've been great, but the whole thing is that Nazem Kadri had been so good as their second line center behind MacKinnon. And his scoring and that line in general was doing a lot of the goal scoring. Rantanen, Lehkonen, and Kadri had really found a chemistry and a rhythm as the second line, and to lose that really hurts. That was something that they had in their back pocket going into either Tampa Bay or the Rangers, that both of those teams were going to badly struggle with Nazem Kadri's presence. And him not having him around now is game changing for that lineup, especially if the down lineup injuries like Tua Burakovsky continue, because those guys are high-end offensive creators and generators for them, and losing them out and replacing them with Nico Sturm, who's a fine NHL player, but just can't get to that level. They don't have another guy. They don't have another 80-point guy to pull out of the hat and drop into their lineup. So losing Kadri is a really, really big loss. They might be able to survive it this round. Even game 3, though, we saw without him, they had a much harder time matching up and doing what they wanted lineup wise. They were nowhere near as effective at 5-on-5 without him, and he's just so important to them. He's such a good player I would say that's as big a concern as anything else. But when goaltending is good, you look at other things, right? But if goaltending goes bad, then that's the biggest, brightest light at all times. When you don't have it, it feels like you're lost.
I guess we'll close out here with another hypothetical for you here, AJ. Who would you rather face, the Rangers or the Lightning? And of course, that's assuming the Avalanche get through the Oilers. They're up 3-0.
Me personally, I want Tampa. I think it's a better story, and I think Colorado would love the way that these guys are wired this year. I think they would relish the challenge of being the ones to end the dynasty in the making in Tampa Bay. I think if Tampa Bay is going for the three-peat, I think the Avs want to be the ones to, oh yeah, that's great. Well, beating you guys kicked off our dynasty instead. So I think that that's just their attitude. They would relish that challenge. I do think Tampa is better than the Rangers. So if you're strictly looking at it from you're trying to get Colorado the cup thing, I think the Rangers are probably the worst team. But at this point, they're both great teams with exceptional goaltenders. If they make those cup finals, it is going to be an absolute war for them.
Well, the battle begins tonight with Game 4, 6 p.m. in Edmonton. Avalanche up 3-0. If they win that, they move to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 20+ years. AJ Haefele from DNVR, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time and lending us your expertise on all things Colorado Avalanche. I know that the town is buzzing. I'm sure that you're buzzing with excitement for this big game.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.